Do you want to learn how to navigate eating disorder recovery as an autistic person? Well, then you are definitely going to want to listen to my free audio training, 3 Steps to Recovery from an Eating Disorder as an Autistic Person. In this training, I guide you through 3 simple steps to give you the clarity and confidence you need to use your autistic traits to your advantage in eating disorder recovery. It's like having a private coaching session with me on demand. Whether you believe being autistic is making recovery feel impossible, or confused about what's your eating disorder and what's your autism, or are just feeling stuck, this audio training is the resource for you. And the best part is, it's free 99. That's right, this 45-minute audio training is completely free. So you literally have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Listen now at livelabelfree.com/free-audio training. What was that again? That was livelabelfree.com/free-audio training. Okay, now can we get back to the episode? Absolutely.
One foot in front of the other, and you'll be around the corner soon.
Welcome to Live Label Free, the podcast, where you'll learn to let go of limiting labels and embrace your unique brain. As my mom says so beautifully in her song,
Fear is a heavy load to carry.
which is why on this podcast, you'll learn the scientific links between neurodiversity and eating disorders, giving you a deeper understanding of how you can face your fears and become truly free. Together, you and me, we will keep putting
One foot in front of the other.
Hello, and welcome back to the Live Label Free podcast. I'm your host, Livia Sarah, and I am joined today for part 2 of the Mom-Daughter Autism Eating Disorder Q&A. Welcome, Louise Alexandra.
Welcome, Mom. Hi, daughter. Hi, Livia.
Hi, daughter.
Sarah.
Hi, daughter. Yeah, totally
Well-
not a great way to greet someone.
No, but I mean, you say welcome, Louise Alexandra, but you hardly ever call me by my name. But I know we're on this official podcast, so hi, my darling Livia.
Hello. Well, everyone listening to this, hopefully by now you have listened to part 1 of my chat with my mom on the podcast. And if you have not yet listened to part 1 and you're listening to us together for the first time, I highly recommend you go back and pause right here and listen to part 1 first, because I'm guessing that a lot of what we will be talking about today is going to somewhat build on our previous conversation, in which we talked about, what it was like for you as a parent of me being autistic and struggling with an eating disorder. We talked about the harms of FBT. We dove into existentialism and purpose in life, and how for me and many people, the eating disorder becomes your purpose. And now, I just want to kick right off, because it's part 2 of our chat, with this 2-part question from Rachel in Australia, who asks, what are your tips for communicating with your child when they have autism, so when they are autistic, and have an eating disorder? What are the subtle ways you can interact to show you care and create a safe and trusting space?
Wow. Well, I guess for any parents listening, that's the $1 million question, right?
Yeah.
That's a very all-encompassing question too.
Yeah.
Like, how can you interact to support your child? First of all, yeah, I feel like the last time we talked, I think we only scratched the surface.
Well, we're only ever scratching the surface,
Right.
right?
Of even of the question how it is to see someone going through an eating disorder, because I think this question also relates to that, right? How do you tips for communicating for your child when they have autism and an eating disorder? Well, I can only speak from my own experience, of course, which is the experience I had with you.
Mhm.
And when you went through your eating disorder in the first place, the whole autism acknowledgement wasn't even there, right? I mean, it
Right.
wasn't even in our spectrum of consciousness at the time. I mean, in retrospect, there's so many things I can place. I think we talked about it last time about the rainbows and the castles and the
Yeah.
shoes in order. And those are just have become symbols for the many things that in retrospect I recognize that when you kind of discovered you were autistic, that it really fits. And
Yeah.
autism is of course a spectrum. So I didn't know about autism, but now that I know, things kind of did fall into place in retrospect, right? I think it would have helped our trust, which I know is another topic that other people ask. Because a lot of the things that you did in your coping, in your despair, that's why you developed an eating disorder, was because of all these insecurities and the overwhelming world coming at you and
Yeah,
not
and
knowing.
if I may elaborate on that, I believe it came down to a lack of trust, right? Which is goes hand in hand with a lack of perceived safety in a sense. And I often talk about in previous Instagram posts I've done and blog posts and, trainings that I do online, which I'm getting more into, which has been so fun, is, that ultimately autistic people tend to live in this constant state of fight or flight mode. We're constantly like being hyper vigilant, trying to fight off the stimulation, we are aware of every little peep, metaphorically and physically. We notice everything because in essence, this is like an adaptive mechanism to optimize your chances of survival. We're trying to pick out threats. And I think almost that's where, the perfectionism often comes in a lot is we're almost trying to pick out every little possible error. And I think that's coming from this, hypervigilance, this fight or flight mode. And for me personally, and for a lot of my clients, we talk about how this eating disorder, being able to grasp onto something tangible, what we talked about last week a lot, is almost a way to manipulate the nervous system to bring us into or to attempt to bring us into this state of I am safe, I am okay. I'm holding on to like a lifeboat, so I'm not going to drown. I think that's mix that with the purpose and the existentialism piece, and it's like, yeah, why would you want to let go of an eating disorder if you inherently believe it is basically keeping you alive? How ironic that sounds, right?
So yeah, so it gave you something to hang on
Yeah,
to feel safe, and you couldn't put that to words yet at the time, right? You didn't.
right.
You know that now. You all know that. I mean, you know all of that now in retrospect, right?
Yeah, and I think that does come with age, because I was reading Bob van Ermengart's report again, the original Dutch version. Now that I'm translating Rainbow Girl, um, and one sentence that really made me emotional when I read it, even the first time when I read it 2 years ago for the first time, was Livia has has so much to say, so much she wants to express, but can never find the words to express it. She wants to, skip puberty. She wants to skip adolescent years. She wants to be an adult. She wants to be independent, but her brain needs time to mature. And that just really hit the nail on the head because I almost want to like speed my way through life and have all these insights and have all this wisdom, that I keep getting, and it's almost this like innate sense of I know that there's more out there, but I need to like trust that it takes time. I don't know if this is making any
Hmm.
sense, but
Well, it's a lot, and it's a lot of philosophizing, right?
yeah,
You're prone to do, and you're very adult for. Well, you're an adult, but you have always been a very adult thinker. And I think because I'm going to go back to the question, like, right? Because what
yeah,
are the tips for communicating with someone like you? And I said it was about trust, and I said it was about there was a lot of lack of trust because I thought I like things I didn't know. I didn't know you took everything literally. I didn't
yeah,
know you needed all that predictability because I'm much more loose. And I mean, why can't we just eat 10 minutes later? Why do we have to eat at that time?
Yes.
Why does everything have to be like that? Why do you need to know as soon as we arrive when we're going to leave? I mean, those kinds of things were hard for me, and maybe hard for siblings because they're so different.
Yeah.
And I think that's also, what people are asking. What are the tips for communicating with your child? And I think when you start making space for all that, which I learned, well, first of all, you try to be as supportive as you can, but there's differences in parents like that too, because some people will tell you, I think we touched upon it last time. Some people will tell you, oh, you have to draw a line, you have to keep boundaries, you have to do this and that. And for me personally, that doesn't work. I mean, I'm not like that. And when people tell me that, I get really upset. Actually, I get irritated because
You
I
get
can't. I can't.
demand avoidance.
Yeah, I
Yes.
can't. I can't do that. I
Yeah.
can't put boundaries, and then I feel guilty. Like, oh, maybe I should put boundaries. Oh, I'm not putting enough. But it's not me. And then later on, I learned. I think, but you tell me, Livia, what worked. I think it worked pretty well that I just tried to envelope you with unconditional love, and that I just totally went by whatever you wanted, even in all the madness, right, of the eating disorder, where I was always trying to be supportive, but I was always losing. I was always losing to you, I feel. Some examples are that I had lists of exchanges in my pockets, right? Remember, you would actually take out all
Yes,
of the bread
I would take
slices
out all
from
the
and
slices and put them together so they would all be the same weight together.
yeah, and that behavior for someone who has not the mindset you have, it was just like I would, and I think could be parents that would say, I'm imagining that, like, why are you doing that? That's crazy, blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, this is what you need. Well, you have to. I feel you have to just kind of subside and
Yeah.
commit to and be kind of complicit to this, because you talked about some other questions about being complicit, right? But there's a whole other
I
meaning of
actually wanna dig a
complicit.
well in this bread scenario for a sec because I'm imagining as a parent that they're seeing this example, I'm betting their kid is doing this, and they're like, "Okay, well, what do I do?" Like, in this
Yeah,
situation, like, specific example, and,
right. Let's work it out.
as you said,
Yeah,
okay, I'm standing there behind the counter. When you just said, some parents might say, "Why are you doing that? That's crazy." Well, immediately I'm thinking if I was standing behind the counter pushing my bread and you said, "Why are you doing that? That is crazy." I immediately will feel more of an urge to control
to
my
do it.
food and to portion the bread. Why? Because you calling me crazy, you questioning my behavior is making me feel unsafe, and it's making me realize, okay, I can't control your perception of me. I can't control that. So what can I control? I can control this bread. I can control these almonds. I'm going to cling tighter to the very thing I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
I
yeah.
can control. So,
And there we
with
are back at the coercion, right? As soon as you experience coercion
yes.
or judgment, you will duck away into the controlling thing.
Exactly, and this is kind of also where, again, that word demand avoidance comes in and is so important that, a lot of autistic people with eating disorders, I mean, autistic people in general, have demand avoidance. Anything that we perceive as a demand, as pressure, as something that we have to do, we are actively going to resist this perceived demand. And that's why, when it comes to subtle ways in which you can interact and show that you care and show your support is become very aware of the way you phrase things. Become, when you say anything, try and phrase it in a way that it's putting as little pressure as possible on your child. So I'm going to give an example unrelated to food, just so that someone can like get an idea of what it would mean like to shift your language from non demand avoidance friendly to like more
Are you
demand
now
avoidance.
talking about what a parent should say?
Yes, not
Okay.
should. I'm just giving a suggestion.
Could
You don't have
say.
to do anything, right? Because should is the ultimate way to trigger demand avoidance. You should eat. Okay, well, now I'm not gonna, right? So, for example, say that you lost your glasses and I knew where they were. I saw them on the table over there, but because you're blind without your glasses, you can't see where they are, right? So there are two scenarios. The demand avoidance triggering scenario would be like, Livia, "Give me my glasses." Well, if you said that, I would pretend like I wouldn't know where they are because I'm like, "You can't tell me what to do." Right? So that's A. Or in a more demand avoidance friendly situation, you want your child to feel like they have autonomy, to feel like it's their choice. So what could you do in that situation? You could say, gosh, I really can't see anything. I wonder where my glasses are." And by phrasing it this way, the child is like, "Oh, I know where they are. It's now my
Mhm.
autonomous choice to to decide whether or not I'm going to help my mom get her glasses," right? So in a situation with food, if you tell your child you should eat more, you should follow the meal plan, you might as well be saying like, don't follow the meal plan, don't eat. You want it to be their choice. You create choice by asking questions that invite autonomy. Olivia, like, what do you want? Like, what do you want to eat? What
Mhm.
would make you feel
Mhm.
safe? What would make you feel comfortable? Like, really showing that there's no force or pressure and that it isn't about you as a parent wanting something, but really inviting the
Right.
child and asking them what they want. Because I think that question, what do you want, is very underused. It's always, what do you need? What do you have to do?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
there's always demands under that, right?
Right.
And when you ask the question, what do you want? That question in and of itself encompasses autonomy and choice, which is what
Yeah.
every single human, autistic or not, ultimately wants.
I really, really understand that now. And also that again has to do with trust because as a parent you're very worried, right? To see your because when you were in the throes of it, I think I might have said, Olivia, what would you like to eat? What would you like to eat? But when you were in the throes of it, you might have been, that in a panic mode. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. And then, but sometimes even, I think even giving you, as I learned, uh, believe me, parents, I was there where they are. I was in that panic too, because that's where you go. You go into the panic with your child as well, often. But I did learn that even you asked me specifically one time if I would just tell you or hold you, it's going to be okay,
yeah.
Livia. You're going to make it through this. I'm going to help you. Just let me know. Well, what can I do to help you? What will help you right now? And then sometimes there would be an opening, right? You would start to formulate. Well, if I can just, can I just start over? Like you wanted to start over sometimes. Can we just forget about this whole business, whatever we were doing? And then you would want to start over. And
Well, yes, and this
then I would say,
exactly,
yes, let's do that. Let's do that. And then it would like a retake of the situation. And I think you have
exactly,
to be calm and give that opening and trust. And
exactly,
let me not forget the scale example when you came back from Carolina House, because
yeah.
I'm not sure I told it last time, because that was for me an epiphany moment.
Yes, and I do want to dig a well right here what you're saying with okay, what do you do when someone's in a panic mode, when they're having a meltdown or a shutdown? What do you do then with the food? In this case, it is so important that you, and as counterintuitive as it sounds, when someone is in panic mode, in meltdown mode, in shutdown mode, whatever you want to call it, their digestion, their entire their entire body's possibility of putting food in them is shut down. So you cannot, in that situation, it's first important that you bring them back into safety. You bring them back into trust. You bring them back into calm. And I think now looking back, that was very intuitive of me when I said, can you just hold me and can you hug me and can you tell me everything is going to be okay?" Because I didn't even know it at the time while I was saying it, but I was basically asking you,
Right.
can you help me feel
It
safe
was so
again?
important.
Because
Yeah, for
once I
me
felt
also to be given that tool was like a gift because I was
right,
like, yeah,
right. So, and once I felt safe again and said, can we start over? Like almost like clean slate. Then I was like, okay, I'm safe. The slate is clean. Now I can do the meal plan again. Now I can eat again. But when someone is in panic mode and you ask them then, what do you want to eat? Like, no, like don't even talk about the
right.
food in that moment because that is going
Yeah,
to heighten the panic.
yeah,
So when they are in panic mode, and I'm really trying to drive this home, I think it's going to be one of the most helpful tools for parents is
absolutely. And the
priority.
hardest, because when
Yeah.
you are in bed, when your child is in panic mode, because I remember, and then maybe after we can also talk about the self-care thing, right? Because the fight flight mode, and it's the anxiety and the feelings in your body that fill you with anxiety, right? And it happened to me too. Like I would get dry mouth, I would get all in a sort of my own panic when you had that, because and you have to kind of come to grips with that you're experiencing that, and you have to breathe yourself also, because you have to kind of get into that calm space in order to provide safety for you.
Yes. Yes.
It's because it's so threatening also to a parent who has no tools, who doesn't know how to handle this, because it's irrational.
If you are a parent or a caregiver of an autistic person with an eating disorder, I have some exciting news for you. A few months ago, I announced that I was considering the creation of a group coaching program for parents and caregivers of autistic people struggling with eating disorders. Because I wanted to ensure this program was truly something that would be appreciated, I said that I would only create the program if there was enough genuine interest. Well, the genuine interest has been shown. Thanks to countless of you who signed up for the waitlist and filled in the questionnaire, I have officially decided to create the, drumroll please, Autistically ED Free Caregivers Group Coaching Program. Not only will this program include live coaching calls with me and other superhero supporters of autistic people with eating disorders, but you'll also have 24/7 access to a private community. And no, it's not on Facebook because, let's be honest, social media can get so distracting, and receive custom created resources and handouts to maximize your understanding and ability to support those with both autism and eating disorders. As I create this program, I want to continually ensure it's curated to you and your specific needs, so your input is highly valuable. Get on the waitlist and share your experience by filling in your details at livelabelfree.com/group. And now, let's get back to today's episode. The absence of tools for the parents honestly comes from traditional eating disorder treatment saying what you said, you
Yeah,
have to
all the
draw
normative
boundaries.
stuff.
If they're having a panic attack, that's not them, that's the eating disorder.
Oh,
You have
yeah,
to
yeah.
say you have to sit down at the table and eat. It doesn't matter how they're feeling, but
Right.
ultimately it's still going to be them putting food in their mouth, and they can only put food in their mouth if they feel safe. And then we can go down the route of like, okay, well, if they're incapable of putting food down their mouths, then you stuff a tube down their throat. But we know what happens if you stuff a tube down someone's throat. If you're going to take away their autonomy, the moment they have the autonomy back, the eating disorder is going to come back exponentially worse
Right.
because they've been traumatized.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the trust is
You've
again
destroyed the
compounded.
trust. You
Yeah.
destroyed the trust.
Yeah, exactly. And on the trust, yeah, I also had these notes, how hard it was to trust you, because your drive for control was so strong that you would do anything. Remember the whole weight gain curve that you had going with coins and water loading and all that stuff, and and
Yeah.
and
And
then
for anyone
and then
listening,
trying to hide that. So how could I trust you? And then it was hard to restore it.
the weight gain curve and the coins and that whole story is in my book Rainbow Girl. So if you haven't read it, you can learn all about how harmful treatment was and how my demand avoidance acted up in my book. So I did just want to make
Yeah.
that side note because a lot of people ask me questions. A lot of people send me emails asking me questions that are literally answered in my book. So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's that chapter is it was actually also the first when you first wanted to write the book, which was already years before. Remember when you
that
had
was
Judith
in
read it?
2000. That was literally in 2019. I wrote, yeah, the first chapter because I was like, I'm gonna write a book, and the first chapter was that coin
And it
situation.
was like a thriller, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Well, I call it frantic escapism almost. That whole, yeah, trying to get out of. the normal whatever treatment was dictating to you. This doesn't sound very clear, but what I did want to say that it's quite something that after everything has happened, after all these years of having this whole trust issue and your deceit, but it was more like you're coping.
It
There is
wasn't
not
no,
one
it was autonomy. That's literally what it was.
right.
Because no one can tell me what to do. I am my own person. I have autonomy. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah, exactly. But it came out, or it manifested as yeah things to trick the system, right? And the system because the
Yeah.
system wasn't helping you. But I wanted to finish my sentence, which is that with all these years, that there is not one person that I trust more than you,
And that's exactly what I have with you too. And I think,
because you're exceptionally trustworthy.
and it's so important to pause right now and like have everyone listening hear this because I really hope and I trust that this gives anyone listening, hope that you too can find this trust again with your child and you can mend this relationship. Just because you've lost trust in the past doesn't mean it can't be found again. And maybe in fact, because it is lost right now, will increase the likelihood that you will find the trust. Because, sometimes, a lot of the times, we have to lose. You can't find anything if you haven't lost it, right? And I have to be honest that I think the relationship you and I have now, the trust we have now, is so incredibly strong because of everything we've experienced. We have grown so much and learned to understand each other and have compassion for each other because, we know each other's darkest sides, so to say. And
Yeah,
yeah, and I mean, that's why people are often surprised, but I, and I wouldn't wish an eating disorder upon anyone, but getting an eating disorder was the greatest gift life has ever given me
thank
because,
you.
yeah, and I'm so grateful for everything that's happened because it shed light on, exactly how I did not want to live. It shed light on, how hellish life can be, which really, when I came out of that, made me appreciate life and being so much more than I could have had I not experienced what it's like to barely survive.
That's amazing, right? I think it's amazing also for people to hear that it gave you purpose, right?
It gave me purpose. Like, yeah, I literally, if I would not have gone through all that now, I don't know what, like, obviously I can't know what I would be doing with my life, but what I'm doing with my life now, which is built on all of my hardships. I mean,
Yeah. Well, it's
this
because I think everybody is in life is just kind of doing whatever comes down their path,
going
right? I
through the
mean, you go to
motions.
school because
Yeah.
you're in kind of this circle of community with who wants you to do this, that, and the other, whether it's good or bad, and you make the next step. And if you're blessed to get into a situation where you're inspired to do something, to create, to self-express, to do something because what's humanity all about, right? But you experienced this, and instead of then going on and like, okay, now I'm gonna work in this office and do that, no, you're actually like, hey, I learned so much from this experience. I learned so much, and so much people are suffering with this, and I understand them to a level that I have this great gift that I can write really well, and that I can express myself on paper and on podcasts and
Well,
whatever
then we both have
so
that
well that
gift of
you're like
writing.
making the most and the best out of everything that was handed to you
Well, and I
and that
think,
happened.
making the best out of it, that really is, again, that's a choice in life. And because we ultimately have two choices. And I know this sounds overly simplified, but I'm not saying it's easy, but it is simple. When something happens to us in life that is hard and difficult and terrible, whether that be the death of a loved one, whether that be an illness, whether that be whatever, you know, we have two choices. We can stay victim to that circumstance, whatever it is. We did not choose to be victimized, but staying in a state of victimhood is ultimately a choice. Or we can, choice two is, this happened to me. There's no changing whatever happened. How can I use this to actually find my purpose and to grow as a human. And I think that's why, at a relatively young age, I mean, for anyone listening, I'm 24 now. A lot of people don't believe that after they've heard me talk. But I think because I actively choose to view anything that happens in my life, I choose to view it as, okay, this is happening for a reason. This is coming on my path to help me grow and become stronger. And when that is your outlook on life, well, then nothing
Mhm.
ever can be bad or negative because you are not allowing it to be bad or negative.
Yeah, and I learned so much from you about this attitude as I was evolving my own attitude that is now kind of in the same spectrum, but I'm 50 something. And I don't think at 24 I was that wise
Well, again,
of
it's so
knowing, like,
subjective.
having this stoic philosophy of, do what you can influence, and take action in the
And
right direction.
ultimately, I feel like age itself is such a not
Relative
made up
thing.
thing because obviously, like, I was on this earth, but, we there's all these theories about, like, previous lives and that our soul never dies and that kind of stuff, and, people may think, "Oh, woo-woo, whatever," but yeah, like, when you start to believe in all that and you believe, that you are just an energy and you as a being are a part of this universe and this incomprehensible, unfathomably deep being, I feel like it's so much easier to just make peace with
Yeah.
life.
And it's not. It's not. It's actually nice. You know how agnostic I am. But yeah, in creativity, especially, I really like that. Like, for instance, when I'm inspired to write a song, wherever it may come from, or I listen to someone else's song and I think, hey, it. I think it's nice to just grab the things and the impulses and the ideas that come and find you. Like Elizabeth Gilbert says, although that's sometimes a little too much, that an idea is floating around, and if I don't use it, someone else will. But
I
who
don't
knows?
that actually
That's
makes me really stressed out, that idea of, like, if I don't grab the idea of someone else,
yeah.
I mean,
Then it's
be
gone. It will
well,
fly to someone
you know
else.
you know why? Because that comes from the scarcity mindset of, like, there's only a scarce amount of ideas and you gotta grab them before they've run out, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, I mean more like, I love the serendipity and the things that
Yeah.
happen, but that you can either grab an opportunity, or if there's a door open somewhere, you can either walk into it and see what's there, or you can just walk past it. And I think that's also depends how many opportunities you grab, how your life will go, and how you look at them, right? Because indeed,
Totally.
what happened to us, there was a lot of stress, and but in the end, I'm also ultimately very, very grateful that I learned all this, and grateful for you and what you learned.
Yeah. Yeah, me
Yeah,
too. So I think, the main message here is, I know whoever's listening to this, you're listening to this because you're desperate and you're struggling. And I know it's so cliche, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think a huge part of that is trusting that that light is there, even if you can't see
yeah,
it. But ultimately, the things that matter most in life are the things we can't touch, are the things we can't see, and to
yeah.
just keep remembering that. Um, so I do want to
I
ask,
wanted to say something about that, Livia,
yeah.
because I'm not sure if I said it the last time, that my advice to parents, right, would be that if a treatment, I think I said it in the context of that Facebook group that I got banned
Oh,
from.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
my advice to treatment is that if treatment doesn't feel helpful, right? If you're stuck in some kind of system that people have been telling you, you have to do this, you have to do that, but if your child is resisting that and is putting her or his foot down, that you really have to listen carefully,
Yeah.
and be ready to doubt and distrust those caregivers who are giving you this advice that is being resisted, and go with your intuition, and that you
Yes.
are right in the end, and follow that voice, because and it might be easy to say, because if your child is at death's edge, right, in terms of
Yeah.
weight. Well, that was a question I have for you, because sometimes
Mhm.
that is the case. What then? And people say, no, the only way we can do is like shove a tube through her throat, and we have to save her that way, and we have to do this, and we have to do that. I think we did talk about it last time, but it's a very fine line that parents are in when you're in such dire straits, right? But
Yeah,
I do
and
feel
I mean,
like,
with the tube situation, I I think about that all the time, and I have to be completely honest that I do not have, the like the experience of having a tube stuffed down my throat, so I can never even imagine how traumatizing that experience is. And I acknowledge this because like I've said before, I believed that lived experience is the most valuable quote unquote qualification. It isn't a diploma hanging on the wall. And, as someone who never was in the position of, you know, I always ate in the hospital. When I was given my meal plan, it was,
mhm,
you either have the choice of eating. If you don't eat, you can drink the Ensure or the nutrition shake. I know in Holland it's called Nutri Drink. And if you don't drink the nutrition shake, then we stuff a tube down your throat. And if you're not willing to accept the tube feed, then we basically tie you down and hold you down while we stuff the food in your throat, right? I never even was at the point of, getting a tube down my throat. So I really cannot even speak to that. But, what I would say, if someone is on death's edge, so to say, is still giving them like again, I'm having a really hard time with this because there is no magic solution. And as a parent, you know your kid best, but doing
I
anything you
just,
can to give them a sense of autonomy. So, for example, like
yeah,
if they're at home and they won't eat, saying like, you really have to eat right. Not you have to, but you can eat right now, and you can choose to stay home and eat, or you can choose to go to the hospital and have a tube put down your throat. Like, which choice are you going to have? And
yeah, but then really, like,
even though it's
yeah,
still limited, it's still giving them a choice.
right, but yeah, and it sounded almost, but I know how you mean it, because not okay. You can stay home and eat, or you can go to the hospital and have a tube down your throat. Well, that's actually true. That is what it is, right?
It is what like, I know it
Yeah,
sounds kind of like, "Are you kidding me, Livia?" But, like, that is what it
yeah,
is. You want
yeah,
to do anything you can, even if it seems like it's not a choice, phrase it like it's a freaking choice, right?
yeah.
Because you want them to feel autonomy, and I mean, for a parent that I'm working with now, they actually are at the point where their kid has lost all this weight and they're being threatened, to that their kid is going to be taken away because they're unfit as parents. And
Oh my
the
God.
mother, well, the
Yeah,
mother had a conversation with her daughter and said, honey, like we want to keep you at home. And if you don't eat, if you don't show that you're gaining weight and improving in some capacity, they're literally going to take you away from us, and we have no input in that. Well, the girl's eating again because she wants to stay home, right?
right,
So, I'm not saying that in every situation it's going to be like that, but I am saying that, as a parent, when you say, you know, I'm I'm not going to be able to, have a choice in this matter at some point either. You're
right.
giving them the choice to either basically be
Yeah.
overtaken by juries and law people or to eat and stay
Right, but it's
home.
great that that opportunity existed for those people, because, as you know, that was also my worst fear, right? When this
Yeah.
happened to us, because when you get into the claws of that system, remember in
Yeah.
Holland the GGZ and Save at home,
Fucking GGZ.
and people come to your home, and because
And
yeah,
they
then
judge you like a
they judge
motherfucker.
you, and there's no understanding of the situation at all. So it was almost like we had to be goody two shoes, right, to show
Yeah.
we're okay. Otherwise
Yeah.
they will take you away, or they will even deep give your parental governance will take that away,
Yeah.
and to institutionalize your child, who will
It's
then
a
be further traumatized, and
yeah,
the
it's a
child is the
very
victim.
scary system. It's a very
Unbelievable. And the government knows this is a problem, but very little is done, and people that speak out about it. I think I sent you that thing about the kids that get traumatized in treatment here and in the closed situation. How do you call it? Closed institutions, like when they lock people up.
Gesloten afdeling?
Yeah, gesloten
Yeah,
afdeling.
I would
It's a
just say
big problem.
like locked ward, locked ward.
Locked wards, yeah, and there's a lot of critique on it, but nothing's being done because people are not ready to examine why the system fails, but they want to blame it on the complexity of the patient.
Yeah, they just say that the patient is too complex, but I'm like, when is an eating disorder not complex? I
Did
mean,
we talk
let's
about that last time about what that it was being said that you were too complex and let's accept you never get better? Did we talk about
I
that?
don't think we even if we did or didn't, we don't need to because I pretty much like say that everywhere. Like
Okay.
literally the synopsis on the back of Rainbow Girl starts with, "You're just gonna have to accept the fact that you're never gonna get better."
Right.
Did you know that my book Rainbow Girl has a new subtitle? What was first My Journey to Living Life in Full Color is now a memoir of autism and anorexia. While the previous title was catchy and fun, it wasn't overly clear what my book was about, which is my story growing up undiagnosed autistic, how this led to me developing what looked like anorexia but was actually a manifestation of underlying autism, the battles I had to face in the healthcare system, including being traumatized by family-based therapy, aka FBT or the Maudsley method, and the gaslighting of having an eating disorder that doesn't quite fit within any of the boxes medical professionals try to squeeze you in. But more importantly, Rainbow Girl is a story of resilience and strength. One that illustrates how no matter what life throws at you, you can and will find freedom. Whether you're a parent or caregiver of someone with an eating disorder, a healthcare professional, or just a lost soul trying to find their way, Rainbow Girl is guaranteed to leave you feeling hopeful and empowered. Grab your copy of either the paperback, ebook, or audiobook, which was recorded by yours truly, at livelabelfreebooks.com, on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, or wherever you buy books. And now, let's get back to today's episode.
It does bring me back to my parents' place of trust again, because when that was being said to you, right? And of course, I was there.
Mhm.
Again, this is again about that advice to the parents. I knew in my heart
Mhm.
that that wasn't right,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I like that's not that cannot be true.
right.
And so listen to that and know that it can be done, that you can get better, and you did.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did have a little bit more about the self-care. I don't think because that was a question, right? From someone.
Um,
Oh, did you seek support for yourself? And if so, how?
did you already answer that last time though?
Not that part of it.
I thought you
I wa-
said like you bought books and stuff.
oh, I did say that? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I did do that. Okay, great.
Yeah, like help your teen beat an eating disorder and and all the stuff that is and the FBT stuff. You read like a lot of you bought a lot of FBT books like Dare and Locke
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah,
their
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And I know
Okay.
that remember that book Brave Girl Eating? Um I actually read that and it was basically just this whole story of how FBT saved her life. And I was just reading it and I was like, okay, clearly whoever this kid is not autistic because the mom was sharing how, like, she would make her kid food, and her kid would just listen and eat it, and I'm like, "Wow, well, that's the dream scenario."
That
Right?
is, yeah.
But, you
Yeah, oh
know
yeah. I
yeah, but
remember
it
last time I asked you and then you said the statistics are very bad. No, I was wondering how many people with eating disorder, because not everybody, of course, has autism underneath it.
and also yeah, and also there's actually another mom that, like, is in an autism Facebook group, but she's, like, describing her child, and I'm like, sorry, but, like, I don't think your kid is autistic because she basically, like, keeps saying, like, when parents ask, like, "How do you get your kids to gain weight?" This a woman keeps commenting, like, I put extra cream in the sauce, I put butter in the smoothie, I put this, I put that, and my kid doesn't even notice." I'm like, "Okay, well, that like, how
Oh yeah,
if"
I remember
and I
that.
was like, "If
Yeah, they
they're
told
not"
me that too. Put some extra butter in, like
yeah,
as if,
but,
as if
like
you.
But, like, they will notice. Like, I remember
Yeah,
you calling me or daddy calling me someone say, like, I was, like, the princess on the pea. Like,
I
if you
remember
would put,
that.
like, 1 drop of oil, I would taste it and I would know, so you can't sneak food into autistic
Yeah,
people.
the
And coming
princess
back
on
to
the
the
pig.
trust, which I feel like
Yeah,
is the main theme of this
yeah,
entire
it's true.
episode, is, if you are sneaking things, your kid is going to find out and they're going to lose even more trust in you, you know?
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
what they
yeah,
talk about a lot with like ARFID
yeah.
too, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, is, don't try and sneak new foods
Right.
like
Don't be
into your
complicit,
kid's
I would
diet.
say.
Like
Yeah,
they need to feel in control. They need it to be their choice
yeah,
if they're gonna try something new or if they're gonna have a drop of
yeah.
oil. And
And I
they
think often parents might think, or at least I know that emotion, like you might think, well, they're cheating on me, and we talked about that. But don't go cheating because they're doing it. Don't be like you're by the treatment team. You're sometimes forced to play on the team against your child. Actually, you're made complicit. Like, oh, sneak that in, do this, do that, anything, right, to make them gain weight, and all the while not working together with you
yeah.
is right pushing you more and more in the defense and more in the control,
Yeah, because
more and more into the eating
also with
disorder.
the, "Oh, they're cheating, now I can cheat too," kind of thing. No, that's that Martin
Right.
Luther
It's
King
not
quote, "Hate does not drive out hate," or in other words, cheating does not drive out
right.
cheating. Only love and trust and safety can do that.
Exactly.
And it's so hard as a parent to see your kid destructing themselves, like doing this and cheating and manipulating. And I think as a parent, continuously showing unconditional love, trusting that things will get better, showing how much you're there for your kid, like
Yes.
showing them that they have choice and autonomy, that is what is going to save you as a family together.
So I suppose that you did feel that. It may be crazy that I asked for that confirmation, but I know I struggled a lot too. But I guess you did feel that in the end.
Oh, totally. And this one comes from Miraya, who is actually in the Netherlands. What helped your daughter most to become recovery minded? And it sounds so counterintuitive, but I remember when I finally decided to recover, and I was like, and I said, I can't do this anymore. That was after you and everyone had completely backed off me, and you
That
gave me
what?
this backed off of me. That's when I
Hmm.
finally got the
I did.
space. Yeah, when you guys backed off of me and stopped saying you have to eat, you have to do this, and you kind of just let me be, because that is when I could realize that if I wasn't going to do something, this disease was going to kill me. And I was only able to see that in a clear light once I
Hmm.
stopped being clouded by the demands and by the pressure that I had to eat and I had to do
So
this.
that was before Carolina House, right? And it was maybe when you were not. This was after y- you were thrown out of the Dutch treatment, right? You're not
Yeah,
going to get better.
yeah.
So so did we? Because I so did we back? I guess back off meant that I didn't let go of you or something, but it meant that I
No,
was.
but you stopped trying to like tell me to eat more. You stopped trying to control my food. You just said, Olivia, do your thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and with the runs, you said that to me once. You saw me going every day, every morning. You saw me going out on the run. You were like, oh my gosh, but you just let me be.
Well, I felt I couldn't. It wasn't going to help if I did. Yeah, I felt I couldn't not let you do it. I couldn't tie you down. I couldn't tell you what to do. Yeah, we had this whole routine, right, of eating and then eating at night and having this dessert that was fluffy protein water drink. But we just did. Yeah, I
Protein
remember. Okay,
fluff.
yeah, we were in this flow of just kind of celebrating every little thing. Remember, we would have applause at the dinner table for everything that you felt you needed support for.
Yeah,
Remember? And yeah, and we didn't judge at all. There's a lot of this was my last thing that I had jotted down as a note. There's a lot of judgment of people around you. I think
yeah.
parents will recognize that too. Like people say, just uh, I mean, I don't blame people around you because no one really knows how it is unless you've seen it or been in the scenes, right? The the scenes in the kitchen and the conversations. And I'm not sure if I said this last time, but the lived experience is so crucial, and that what you share with the world.
Yeah, because I
And
mean,
that
the
also
judgment.
treatment. Yeah.
The judgment thing, like, yeah, people are gonna freaking judge you, and trying to make them not judge you isn't gonna help because the more you do that, probably the more they're gonna judge you. And I think that's kind of how I've found peace in life is, there's a lot of negative, pathetic haters out there. I mean, Mama, we talked about that person who gives a 1-star review for my book. I mean, a 1-star rating and doesn't leave any words. Well,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
you
I
know,
don't
I
understand
think the
why
past
people.
me, who was so people pleaser, would have not been able to sleep because of that. Because be like, what did I do wrong? What's bad about the book, like that they left a 1-star review? But now I'm able to recognize, no matter what I do, people are going to hate on it. People are going to leave nasty things. I mean, some of the best books I have read, I go to their Amazon and I was curious and I just like looked at what are the one reviewers saying, and they're saying like useless fluff, anyone can write better than this. you know and I'm just reading this and like looking and thinking about whoever left this comment, and I'm like, okay, clearly this person is very angry and upset in their life, and the fact that they even have time to leave negative things indicates that they're not putting value into the world. Otherwise you don't have time for this shit. You don't have time for the negativity, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think as a parent, when you can accept people are gonna judge you anyways,
Yeah.
so you might as well
It's the
do what
yeah.
you trust is inherently right.
Yeah.
That's when you're gonna be set free.
It's human. It's a human spectrum, right? People get mad, they get jealous, if they want something someone else has, and then they just, if you put something, if you talk badly about them, maybe it make you feel better just a little bit, but it's not really helping the world very much.
No, again,
And why would you do
negativity
that?
does not drive out negativity. Only
Yeah.
love can do that. And it's that
Yes.
timeless expression of, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Like,
Right.
honestly. But again, not everyone is that way. Again, only you can
Right.
choose to be that way. And
Right.
that's your choice. That's your autonomy, right?
Yeah. And
So yeah.
seek out positivity too. Also, parents who are looking for support, you don't seek support from the judgy neighbors, but um, but go to your. I was luckily blessed with good friends. I am blessed with good friends and family, small family, but my brother who won't judge and but just would listen and support and cheer and to keep going,
Yeah.
and look for those people. And
Yeah,
and
and
I remember also the huge outpouring of support that came when we did the GoFundMe.
mhm.
I don't know if we talked about, but it was such
No,
an
but
act of,
that's in my book too, so people can learn
yeah.
more about that.
And even a friend who just gave me a list of things to focus on. I remember, like, number one, work, don't lose job. Number two, small steps. Number three, and it was like I had it in the kitchen,
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, I need to do this, and I focus on that. It was really like this one foot in front of the other idea, right?
Mhm.
And in the meantime, just keep going, keep hugging you, keep trying to give as much attention to everybody in the family. It was a struggle, but I think it takes time to make it through an eating disorder. That's the other thing. It just will take its time.
It just
It
takes
has to
time,
take
yeah.
its course, and that's painful, but it's true. But when you come out on the other end, um, it's also glorious. Even though that sounds maybe, yeah, crazy.
I can, like, tell that whenever we
Yeah.
talk about that, we, like, almost feel bad for saying, like, how wonderful it is
Right,
now because of that, like, almost survivor's guilt in a way. But I think, again, it's important to shed light on this and emphasize that it, won't only get better, but it will become amazing. And
right.
because, like, if I would've, like, had a guarantee that everything would be amazing, that would've given me so much hope. Um,
Yeah,
and I think that's exactly that. That's the hope that's lost when you have freaking
yeah.
professionals who frankly don't know anything
Who
about eating
don't know?
disorders
Yeah, who don't know
say
it?
you're
So
never going to get better. Because
I
even
know.
if it was true, even if they were a fortune teller, how does it help anyone to say that? Not.
Yeah,
Not.
and it's
So, yeah.
yeah.
But,
And it's very
anyways, yeah,
complex because just thinking about if I was a parent for who it is just started, and and it's and listening to this podcast, I put it, yeah, but what should I do? Well, I could imagine that it could be me. Like, yeah, but okay, fine, guys keep talking about keeping hope and it will be okay, but what should I do now? What should I do now? You
Well, in
know?
this situation, I'm gonna be honest, get yourself a coach. Get yourself someone who can give
Yeah,
you
but
practical
someone who
steps.
knows what they're talking about. Like, yeah, a coach. Get yourself a coach who knows this field, a lived experience
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah,
Now,
and I
now
mean
it leads up to ask you, but
no, 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 and
yeah,
I know that this is gonna sound like, okay, well, Olivia, what is this? Some sort of promotional marketing? Well, yeah. Why did I start this? Because people need help and they need coaching and they need support. And I
yeah,
became a coach because I remember when I was, I had gone through treatment, but I still felt misunderstood. I still felt like there was something about the eating disorder, and I got a coach, and I'm not gonna name her name here, but that was the first time ever in my life that I understood that, like, there are people out there who understand and can help you
yeah,
and can give you
yeah,
practical steps. And, you know,
yeah.
I'm releasing my extreme hunger book in August, and I'm working on the Dutch translation of Rainbow Girl. Um, and for a few months, I've been talking about, I've been having like a little section in my podcast where I talk about how I'm thinking about creating a group coaching program for parents. And I mean, I've gotten many signups, so I just want for everyone listening to this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create that. Because not
That's
only
great.
will you have live group coaching with me and other parents, but you'll have, 24/7 access to a community of other parents that are in the same situation as you. Because I think that connection, like, being able to share your struggles and having other people validate and resonate with those, I think that in and of itself can be so powerful.
Yeah. That is powerful, and I know the value. Even when you were still in the midst of it, that I think when you were in Carolina House, I got a coach who was so helpful because he really, even though I don't think he knew a lot about eating disorders specifically, but he knew a lot about. It seemed he understood about
Communicating with me.
yeah,
Yeah.
about the autonomy part and the intrinsic motivation part and all that. And then you were on that journey, the journey that you chose yourself. And I remember you were going to come back. Remember, and
Yeah,
I
and
kept
I
saying
know
all
you
the
wanna
time,
talk about the scale, but
skill.
I'm at a point where my mental,
Okay,
battery is empty, and,
yeah,
I wanna
okay,
respect that and set my own
sure,
boundary here. So, yeah, I mean, if you guys enjoyed this conversation, whoever's listening to this, and you want my mom to come back again, do shoot me an email. And with I have a number in my head. With X number of emails, I will have you back on the podcast. um, because we could
sounds
talk
good,
about this
honey.
for hours and hours,
Yeah, it was just that
and
for trust,
and in the
for
group
trust.
coaching program for parents, I think it would be great if you came on and were a guest speaker sometime to do a group call. So
That's good.
yeah, if you are interested as a parent, in my group coaching program and learning more, you can get on the wait list now at livelabelfree.com/group. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Mama, for coming back on, and we will talk to you, or I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye for now.
In front of the other, and you'll see around the corner soon.
This podcast has been recorded by your host, Liv. This podcast has been edited by my small but mighty Live Label Free team, and the beautiful song One Foot in Front of the Other that you are now listening to was written and recorded by my beautiful mom, Louise Alexandra. I am so grateful for my team and everyone who supports Live Label Free. Together, we are always stronger.